take a look at some charts, figures, and graphs on AAVE for Brave New Coin. So AAVE is a lending and borrowing protocol where with a few clicks of a button, you can connect your MetaMask wallet and away you go into the lending and borrowing ecosystem. And they've got a variety of assets here in regards to what you can borrow or what you can lend. Currently, there's no KYC AML requirement, but at some point in time in the near future, I can see that happening for AAVE and all of DeFi. We're either going to have mega geofencing going on with DeFi or KYC AML. I don't really see an in-between there. As much as everybody wants a decentralized environment, the reality is regulations aren't going to allow non-KYC AML stuff on DeFi for much, much longer. So maybe that's being priced in now on the token. But the lending and borrowing market is still vibrant. And if we just sort by deposit APYs, this is on the version 2 on ETH. Most of the stablecoin deposit APYs are much better than you're getting on proof of stake for any coin. Now this will fluctuate up or down, plus or minus X% in a bull market and a bear market. But in general, most of the time, if you don't want to expose yourself to volatility, this is one way you can participate in crypto. For a lot of people, is just throw some stablecoins into lending on DeFi. Other crypto stuff certainly doesn't have anywhere near the percentages that stablecoins do as far as lending out here on AAVE version 2. But another way you can sort this is market size. A lot of it is Ethereum and USDC currently, and the APYs are just based on supply and demand. So if everything is borrowed that's available, deposit APYs go up, borrow APYs go up. That's how it works. And we can look at Polygon as well. Most of that is USDC and DAI. And on AAVE, most of that is also USDC and DAI with similar deposit APYs. So depending on how aggressively you want to min-max your deposits or borrows, you can go between these markets here and figure out which option is best for you should you want to use AAVE in the first place. And according to their calculations, they have 24.3 billion in TVL. If we look at TVL across the board, all chains, AAVE is number 4 here, below Curve, Maker, and Convex. It is multi-chain, so it's the second biggest multi-chain dApp. Then if we look at AAVE's TVL specifically, falling slightly with prices here. You know, some of this is price appreciation of the underlying. Some of this is just not going to budge lower so long as stablecoins stay into the system. So it's hard to tell exactly what matters. I like that they sorted this out on DeFi Llama here. Not the easiest thing to read, but I assume that big slice is stablecoin or ETH, because it's ETH. So you'd have to look, you know, what percentage of ETH is this? Are people adding or subtracting to the markets? Does it even matter for price of AAVE, right? At the end of the day, it probably doesn't, but it's interesting to see what people are doing from a broad DeFi perspective. And if we look at the number of contract interactions, this is on ETH for AAVE V2. Contract interactions are actually rising slightly, users rising slightly. If we look at Avalanche, kind of flat and down, both in interactions and users. Polygon rising slightly, users rising slightly. So some of this is related to fees, some of this is related to incentives. If you look at interactions across the board, ETH, Avalanche, Polygon, you see Polygon has the most interactions. Certainly it's probably because it's the cheapest to go in and out quickly, just my guess here. So all that's going to play a role in how people interact with AAVE on various chains. If you look at Unchained Stats for the token AAVE, transaction counts just dwindling month over month, essentially sitting at all-time lows. Average transaction values rising as ETH fees are still extremely high. So high ETH fees aren't going to help anything in DeFi. And that's probably why you're seeing much of the activity on AAVE, you know, in Polygon, because it's cheaper. It's just kind of that simple. And at a baseline, you do need rising on-chain metrics to be somewhat bullish in price, at least. If we look at active addresses in the fill and VT in the line, active addresses also dwindling essentially to all-time lows. This is just on ETH, to be fair to AAVE, and to be fair to trend metrics or coin metrics. At least I assume this is just on ETH, and the other metrics on the other chains are probably looking much better relative to ETH because of ETH fees. MVT also falling pretty dramatically here, which says market cap is falling faster than on-chain activity currently, which is usually more bullish than bearish. Then if we look at MVRV over price here, price in the line this time, MVRV in the fill, for most coins, MVRV tops out at around a 2x multiple, meaning market cap is 2 times greater than on-chain activity before things sort of topple over. In DeFi's case, that hasn't really correlated too well. MVRV here just kind of declining month over month. I just bring this up because I like looking at it to see if there's eventually a correlation that's going to kick in. But at this point in time, there's no real value here in looking at MVRV on DeFi in general, at least that I can see. If you see something, let me know in the comments below, but I don't really see any correlations here going on. Google Trends for AAVE, the word in the United States past 5 years, are down, flat, uninspiring, kind of not too much going on here. You have to narrow this down to the United States because AAVE is a real word, Finnish word for ghost. So if you go worldwide, you kind of pick up all that stuff. You don't get a true crypto signal. We'll say it like that. DeFi crypto Google Trends worldwide over the past couple of years, still rising, still better than where you'd think it would be, considering how all of DeFi price-wise is kind of just a non-stop, endless dumpster fire recently. We started to look decently okay in November, kind of basing there, and then mid-November, December has just been an aggressive 45-degree angle down. So if we look at some technicals, this is the 1-year MA in the green, 5 times that in the red, midline in the white. And we're now definitely deep in the green zone here for AAVE. Now, you don't have a ton of data here. You don't have multiple buys and sells. We don't have like ping-ponging for multiple years. So this could be in the buy zone for months and months and months before it turns up. So I guess you could look at this as an accumulation trade, not necessarily something you're jumping in to get out of in the next month. But ideally, you're accumulating in the bear market and then you're selling into the height of the bull market. So it did pick those out twice so far, rather nicely for AAVE. So definitely not something to throw away just yet. Certainly worth following, but it's definitely telling you that, yeah, we're bearish, right? You don't need this to tell you that, but we are bearish. We are below the 365 MA there. We're below the 200. We're below the 50. We have a death cross here. There's no real volume support until this $20 to $100 area, massive zone, and just generally no volume since June. It's like the 25 people who were trading DeFi to get it up here just left in May, and they sold in May and walked away, basically. It's really what they did. We didn't see any volume come back, at least in a strong way, since then. That event was kind of it, I guess, for larger market participants at that time. And this does have a growing bull div. That's not going to save you price-wise, but it does tell you, yeah, this thing is getting pretty oversold. Lower lows in price, higher lows in RSI. This could be an all-time low in RSI for AAVE. Just checking on my other screen here. It's near all-time lows for the RSI, certainly. Very close. So as ugly as this looks, bearish momentum is waning. That doesn't give it a screaming buy signal or anything, but it's worth noting that at least. I mean, ultimately, you lost this low in June. That's never a good sign when you try to establish a range and you break lower. Much like January to May, we had this range and we broke lower. That's usually not a good sign. You don't want to be making lower lows in a bull market ever. And it's been below the cloud really since May, and it's stayed below the cloud really since November. Just absolute devastation after that break down below the cloud there. So certainly not bullish by any means. I wouldn't get bullish on this until it's back above 300 at this point. AAVE-BTC also aggressively continuing to sell off. Bit of a bull div here. It is in support-ish on VPVR. Pretty wide 5,200 spread there. But obviously that's not a resounding buy. It's a massive risk reward for buying here. Catching a knife. Again, no volume whatsoever since May. Maybe this is a Binance issue. I don't know. But it's eerie and spooky, the lack of volume here on most stuff. And against ETH, it's just been good night since May. Just, again, whoever sold in May and walked away is a champion at this point against a lot of these pairs because they've continued to just get pummeled week over week. RSI here definitely hitting all-time lows. And ultimately, when stuff looks like this, you want either a V bottom, Adam and Eve, inverted head and shoulders. you want a chart pattern, you want anything to help you discern that, yeah, there's some sort of basing range down here, because this looks terrible even at all-time lows. And that is a rare feat. Usually after months and months and months of all-time lows, at least on this pair. And now, to be fair to AAVE, there is trading data from 2018, so I'm sure this goes lower, but on the active pair that's existing, it's mega all-time lows. But there's just been no buyers here whatsoever. You know, you could say a volume spike here, but price-wise, just nothing. So that's all for this one. You know, AAVE works great. The lending and borrowing stuff works great. DeFi on that, in that sense, has worked very well. But the tokens for this stuff has performed abysmal since January. That's all for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.